Hey, my name is Shash, and in this channel, we're diving deep into NFT projects. So make sure to give me a comment or a subscribe if you're interested in hearing more. I personally hold around 80% or more of my net worth in NFTs, so I'm deeply invested in the space. So let's get right into it. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the biggest roller coaster rides I've had with NFTs, and that is the Kaizen Corps project. There were points where I just was literally about to sell all of my Kais, and then I decided not to. And I'm going to tell you why I'm bullish on them, and I'm going to tell you why there was a certain point where I was just extremely pessimistic about this project and its chances of succeeding. So what is Kaizen Corp? So I'm going to show you guys what the project is about. This is the website, kaizencorps.com. As you can see, it's essentially a gaming project. They're building their world's first massively online collaborative strategy experience. So the way I would describe this is it's kind of like Risk, but online. So they do have a Medium, and I'll link to this, and they essentially have a white paper on how this game works. And the way it will work is it's kind of like a strategy game where you work with your faction. So the whole NFT collection is divided into different factions. You can decide which faction to join, and then everybody works together with their individual Kais to kind of win for their faction, and then you win to earn. So essentially the whole point is you will win tokens, and it's not play to earn, it's win to earn. So you don't get anything unless you actually win. So as you can see, they have a pretty in-depth Medium here where they go into how this will work. One thing they're very honest about in this is that initially it's going to be a very stripped down experience. It's not going to be a fancy game with fancy graphics. It's more about the strategy, and they don't claim to be making a AAA game. However, what they do claim to be making is something that's very engaging and works together well with a 10K profile collection as well as Discord, right? Because essentially in the Discord, you'll be able to work with your factions to kind of win against the other factions. So that's what the whole game is about. And I love the concept from the moment I kind of found out about it. So I got into this project pretty early. I've been hanging around the Discords. So I've been here for the whole ride. Now, in terms of the actual NFTs, as you can see here, they have a very mech style vibe to them, right? So it does remind you of Mechaverse, but different in many ways. And basically the developers, what they said is they were really inspired by the whole mech aesthetic. So I actually love the art style. I think the art style is great. Now, as you go through their website, you can see that one of the core values they have is their community over everything, right? They say that community is the #1 factor in a blue chip project, and that's why they have been kind of listening to the community quite a bit. As you can see over here, community wins out over everything else according to this poll they ran. Now, the one last piece I want to mention is there's a 10,000 supply, right? The total supply is 10,000, and then I'll get to that later and in terms of covering how minting works and how the total supply works. So why did I decide to get involved in this project? The first reason why is because the team was extremely involved in the Discord, right? I would basically never get into Discord and not see one of the team members just engaging. I have rarely seen projects where the developers are that involved. That was one of the bullish signs to me, which showed me that okay, these guys are serious about building a project that really will win out in the long term. Now, the second reason why I really like this project is the team actually listened to the community. So one of the key moments where I felt that, okay, this project is something I can invest my own money into is when the team actually decided to change their art direction based on community feedback. Their original vision was something different, while the community wanted Kaizens that could actually work as profile pics. So they actually changed the art direction to be more profile pic oriented, so the community would be happy with that. And this makes sense because it shows that the developers are flexible. They have a very clear vision in terms of their game, but they are very flexible in terms of changing their strategy based on market feedback. This shows that they know what they're doing in terms of actually being able to adapt. The third reason I decided to get involved is I actually spent quite a bit of time just chatting in their Discord and chatting to the devs themselves. And the impression I got from them was that they know what they're doing. I really got a competent and intelligent feel from the developers. They both said they're entrepreneurs, have been entrepreneurs for a while, and they clearly know how to manage projects. So I felt like things were being done in a very organic way. And as time went on, I clearly saw that the community was growing organically very well. So this is a few days after mint. They were able to grow to 9,100 followers, which is pretty impressive. That's very, very quick from basically zero a couple months ago, right? So they know their organic marketing. Everything they did was reeked of competence, right? So that's kind of why I decided to get involved. Now, let's quickly talk about the minting process, because this is where things get interesting. So if we go on to the Medium, and by the way, guys, minting is still not done, so I want to explain how this affects everything. So they essentially decided to have a 10K supply, but mint out in different phases. They have the first batch, which is 1100 at 0.77 Sol, second batch at 222 quantity at 0.99 Sol, and phase 3, which is 3333 for 1.33 Sol, and then phase 4, which is the last 3333 for 2 Sol, right? And this would be a total of 9,999. Sorry, so my bad, not a 10K profile collection, a 9,999 profile collection, right? With the average mint cost of 1.42 Sol, with the mint price increasing, so obviously early adopters get rewarded. Now, the reason they did this is they want to appeal to a broader market, right? Which is board game enjoyers, mech enthusiasts. They want to go a bit broader rather than just going for Solana and Ethereum NFT holders. So they needed to have a supply that's bigger to really fulfill their vision, right? And one of the things they said is, we've identified that most projects intentionally decrease supply with a sole focus on temporarily increasing floor prices. This is true. Most profile pic collections do that. So these decisions are not based on the longevity of the project or its utility, but concerns around price only. So their focus is on building a strong core product, which in turn will increase demand and expand our total addressable market size. So these guys are clearly looking far ahead, and that's why they went with that whole batched phase, right? Now, let's get into the actual launch, right? So pre-mint, I was pretty bullish. One of the reasons why is Giancarlo buys tokens, who's a huge NFT influencer with 70,000 subscribers. So another reason I was bullish is Raj Gokal, the co-founder of Solana, actually responded to one of their tweets where they made an honorary for Raj, and he said, "I love the art on this one," right? So Raj was giving it, basically an endorsement, and he's the co-founder of Solana. So for me, that's pretty big. And another third reason is there were a lot of influencers in the space, in the Solana NFT space, like Parzival and more, that were bullish on Kaizen. So I saw the right people getting into this project, where I decided to go heavy and really mint as many as I could. Now, guys, let's talk about the mint, because this is where things get interesting. No, this was not a smooth experience. In fact, I was almost ready to sell my Kaizens at one point. I was pretty much about to go and list them all, but there were certain things that prevented me from doing that, and I'm glad I didn't sell them, because I am now bullish. So let's talk about the crazy roller coaster ride that was the mint. So come mint day, things started quite well. The first 1100 sold out in a few minutes. Very bullish, right? So the first batch of 1111 sold out very quickly in a couple minutes, and then basically they revealed right after, and I was very impressed by their system. So they have this whole kind of armory where you can go and see your Kais, you can see the traits they have, you can see how common they are, you can see the base. They don't have these yet. They had rarity, but they got rid of it because they're redoing their rarity. But you can see that they just built out an incredible interface for looking at your NFTs. I don't think I know of many other NFT projects that do this, right? This shows what a legitimate team this is. Like, this is not something most NFT projects do, building a cool interface like that to see what your traits are like and what's common, uncommon, etc. So that was good. And then the second phase, batch 2 started, and that was 2,222 at 0.99 Sol. So that also sold out in 28 minutes, so it was a bit slower. So at this point, I had minted around 15 Kais. I was going pretty aggressive on them. So this is where things kind of started unraveling. At this point, I thought that, hey, okay, they've easily sold out batch 1. Batch 2 was a bit slow. Clearly, demand is kind of there, but they probably should wait a few days to mint batch 3. And that's what I thought they would do. It made a lot of rational sense. Get the demand going again. Get people basically just hyped up before going into batch 3 and batch 4, right? However, they decided to move ahead with batch 3. And as you can see, batch 3 is still going on, and there's 1,373 minted out of 3,333. This is after 3 days of minting. So the mint is still live. Now, not only did they open up batch 3, which stalled out very quickly and started minting out very slowly, which led to people being very, very bearish, they then decided to list on Magic Eden, And the reason they decided to list on Magic Eden is because obviously people were offering and selling inside their Discord, and people were getting scammed because people didn't really know what they were doing. So they wanted to open up a marketplace to ensure people don't get scammed. However, if you open up secondary while you're still minting, what happened is a lot of people just started listing on secondary for the half price of mint. So the mint was 1.33 for batch 3. On secondary, we were seeing 0.6, even down to 0.56. And not only did you have these issues, you also had issues with the rarity. They basically figured out that the rarity calculations were messy, and they essentially have to redo the rarity, which they're still doing. So things are looking pretty pessimistic at this point, and honestly, I was pretty close to calling it quits. And another issue was that a lot of people on the whitelist couldn't mint, so there was that as well. So there were multiple issues. With this, the team also was quite stressed out. In Discord, their communication was they were communicating, however, sometimes they were communicating in a manner where certain people were turned off because they were quite passionate about their product, right? So they were sometimes saying quite passionate things, and a lot of people who were outside the community saw this as a sign that the devs were being immature. There is a validity to that. You have to be really careful with the messaging you have in your community, in your Discord, in your Twitter, etc. And if not, people will take that as ammo, right? So there were a lot of things stacked against Kaizen Corps at this point. And to be fair, the devs were probably very stressed out because they had worked on this for a long time. This was a complex launch. This wasn't a simple one batch mint out. This was quite an undertaking. And these guys also have said that they run their own businesses, so they're literally working 2 full-time jobs, one with Kaizen, trying to keep it going, and also running their business. So I completely understand that the devs got frustrated, but obviously me as an investor, all I care about is whether a project's going to do well. I want to be part of a great community. I don't really care about people being stressed out. Obviously, I do empathize with them, but at this point, that's kind of where my head was, right? Like it was like, okay, it seems like they're making some really bad decisions here. I don't know if they're going to turn it around, but there was a reason why I decided to hold, right? Despite everything, despite all the, despite all the FUD, despite all the mistakes that were made on mint day, I kind of thought about it and realized 2 things. Number one, the devs throughout the whole project had been extremely professional, extremely communicative with their community, and very open to changing things around and really being flexible, right? So I thought about it, and I gave myself 24 hours. If in 24 hours they don't figure out a solution to this, I'm going to figure out how to liquidate my Kaizens. And I'm glad I did, because the next day after they had slept through, things actually started moving in the right direction. So now we're going to get to the next phase, right? So we've had this rocky launch, and there were a lot of mistakes made. I was very bearish at a certain point, but I decided to give the devs the benefit of the doubt. I decided, hey, they've done a really good job till now. I've talked to them. I know they come across as intelligent, entrepreneurial guys, and I've actually communicated with them via Discord, and I just decided, okay, I'm gonna trust them for another day. So the next morning I woke up and I found this Twitter thread. So essentially what the community did was do a massive community call. Unfortunately, I was asleep when this happened, as I'm in a completely different time zone. And they addressed what happened, right? They talked about how, their reasoning behind opening up the secondary marketplace. They had assumed that the mint would take 3 to 10 days, right? Because other projects were taking a while. It being a double bear market, so not only are we in an NFT bear market, but it's also a low SOL price. So they were really getting hit with this double market, right? Now, they decided to continue with the minting because they obviously wanted to focus on having enough funding for domination and to really build a runway and the funds for domination. And obviously with this listing that they made to ensure that people didn't get scammed, people started selling below the mint price. It was unfortunate. It was, in my opinion, predictable, but as I said, the founders had good intentions. Maybe their execution was a bit weak on mint day, but they were under extreme amounts of stress. And then they listed why, despite months of hard work and sleepless nights, they were basically being called a rug and cash grab by the very ecosystem that they had just fought so hard for. So the reality is they misread things. They thought they were going to mint out. They didn't, and they made some decisions that unfortunately led to the floor price undercutting And it goes to show how much this community in Solana right now is just focused on price and floor price, and they're not really backing great projects. That's a big issue right now, where everybody wants to just quick flips and just go into the next bullshit project and try to make some money, right? And this is something that kind of sucked. But anyways, they got to this point, right? They're obviously in a bad place, and they had made some mistakes with the way they launched their project, which led to momentum just completely crashing. So they are now getting to solutions. So as they mentioned, they will be hosting an NFT verified holders vote for how to remedy this mistake, right? So they're letting the community decide how to fix things. One of the two options they provided was lower the mint price and provide a refund to those who paid over the reduced amount. So the proposal they had was to reduce the mint to 1 sol and refund those in batch 3 who paid over that amount. And the second option is leave things as is and build. Essentially, they admitted that they had made a mistake with how they handled the mint and listing on secondary, and they are now letting the community decide, right? In my opinion, when I saw this, I saw that, okay, these guys, they had a good night's sleep, they woke up, and now they have a game plan to get back on track. Yes, things were rocky on launch day, but even if you look at the biggest Solana collections like Degenerate Ape Academy, the mint was a shit show, right? Like the mints on these projects can be messy because it's such a difficult thing to do, to have these launches and have them run smoothly. It's not technically an easy task, and people think it is, but it's not, especially with these guys doing a multi-batch mint. So if we go into the Kaizen Corp's Discord, right, you can see in the announcements, right, they took a snapshot of all the minters and current holders. They're going to reward holders. And again, this is a game-based project. There's going to be utility here, right? And as I mentioned, they did have some issues with rankings. They explained what the issues were, and they're working right now on fixing those issues, as well as the armory, right? They were fixing certain issues with the armory. So they are working very quickly on remedying some of the mistakes that happened during the mint. And keep in mind, the reason some of these mistakes happened is because they were ambitious, right? If you have these simple profile pic collections with not much ambition that are doing things very by the book, yes, there's less chances for things to go wrong. With Kaizen, they actually tried to do a bunch of new stuff. Some of it did go a little, awry, but they are executing extremely fast. And you can see from here that they've been executing very, very quickly on all of these things. They even got in a verified channel and basically assigned roles based on how many Kais you hold. They essentially made a proposal to delist from Magic Eden, right? So what they said here was the listing being up is undercutting our mint, and regardless of whatever decision we'll make as a DAO, we'll be pulling the listing anyway, so we're thinking let's do it ASAP. And they said, if I receive strong consensus, I will do it ASAP. So they essentially were in the Discord talking to everybody. Most of the people in the Discords were in favor of delisting from Magic Eden, and that's what they ended up doing. They ended up delisting from Magic Eden. So at this point, they're still minting, but they are delisted from Magic Eden, right? Now at this point, there were people who won free mint tokens. They made sure they got those mint tokens to those people, and then they fixed the whitelist issues. Again, in a matter of days, in a matter of a couple days. And now, 2 days after, or 2.5 days after this whole mint day madness, right, where things did go wrong and where I was personally very skeptical of the project, they have their DAO voting live, right? So if you go in here and you're verified, you go into enlisted and verified, and actually go here to squad leader, you're able to vote, right? So you're able to vote on which option you want. Do you want to close down the mint completely? Do you want to lower the mint cost? As you can see, people are in favor of lowering the mint cost. They want the supply to go up because they want more players for this game and they want funding. So the community is behind them. Now, keep in mind, the reason there's so few votes in this channel is because the squad leader channel is for those of us who hold 5+ NFTs. There are other voting channels for people who hold 1+. Now, if you look over here, they have another proposal, which is, do we refund those who have paid over 1 sol for batch 3? As you can see, the majority want to refund people who basically minted at 1.33 and give them back 0.33 Sol. Now, if you look in here at this unlisted verified channel, two of the founders provided extremely in-depth reasoning behind what their preferred options are, right? So over here, StyloStack goes in extremely deep on basically why he thinks that they shouldn't reduce mint. So in this channel, you can actually see the founders have been basically weighing in on what their preferred options are. So not only are they opening up the votes, but they're also providing in-depth reasoning behind their preferred options. And then people are deciding based on reading this what the best option is. And what I love about this project is they're constantly in there. The founders are constantly in there, right? They're always talking, they're listening to the community, they're calm, they're focused. And the most mind-blowing part is, if you see in this post, StyloStack, one of the founders, he stayed up till 4:30 a.m. on his honeymoon to ensure that the people who are on the whitelist got their Kais, right? Like, these guys are killing themselves, working themselves to the moon on their honeymoon to get this project done and do it right. If that isn't bullish, I don't know what is. The community and the founders are working together to figure out a solution. They're listening to feedback, and there's a lot of discussion going on what the best options are, right? So people are providing detailed feedback. So what I'm seeing is there's a very high quality community here, right? The quality of the community is great. The flippers have kind of just left the project. The founders are involved. And one thing I've learned in the NFT space is you want to bet on teams and not bet on just individual launches, right? You don't want to bet on the first 3 days of a launch. Arari's launch went horribly wrong. Degenerate Ape Academy went horribly wrong. A lot of these launches went badly. Even Thugbirds, I believe, had a really rocky launch. So it's not really about the launch day itself. It's about what happens in the days after. That's kind of how I decide whether I want to invest in a community or not. So with this project, what I see is the developers are really committed to the project. I see that the community is engaged. I see that they're coming up with great solutions, and they're building. They're honestly building every single day. So I think the execution is there. So my vote on Kaizen Corps is I am bullish. I hold 20 plus. I minted around 15. Then I bought 5 plus on secondary because I thought that, okay, I should pick up a few rares before this goes off listed from Magic Eden. And I'm glad I did, because now I have a bag full of Kaizens. And I do think this project is going to do very well, because no matter what, if the founders and community work together, they will figure it out, right? Even if supply is an issue, they'll make adjustments and reduce the supply if, let's say, Mint 3 isn't basically able to sell out. And I do think the reason that Mint 3 will sell out is, at this point, everybody in the Solana community is just waiting to see what happens. Once people see that the community has voted on a solution, and that is the solution the community has gone for, and the marketing kicks back up, and things start rolling again, I do think that the phase 3 mint will sell out fairly quickly as sentiment turns around. Solana NFTs are all about sentiment. So guys, my suggestion is definitely look into this project, do your own research. This is not financial advice in any way. I just want to emphasize that. But I am bullish on Kaizen Corps. This is much better, in my opinion, than Monkey Kingdom or whatever next profile pic collection that's being wash traded and pumped up by influencers, right? Like, this is a legit project. So that's what I'm going all in on, is I'm going all in on legit projects like Kaizen Corps, Panzer Dogs. I'm going all in on Degenerate Ape Academy, Arari. I have a Thugbirds. Those are the projects I really believe in. On Ethereum, I'm really deep into Doodles, into Warriors of Aradena. So I'm just into good projects with good teams, with good execution. That's my criteria. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I would love it if you could subscribe or drop a comment what you think of this project. And yeah, I'm really bullish on these guys. So let me know what your thoughts are.